Hey folks, back with ancient cosmography. I restarted my computer and it put all my photos somehow into one thing here, so I'll see if I can figure this out. But I'm still studying the Diarmid character Mako Duin. And that, I think that he's a avatar for Papua, potentially. It says he does battle against this great boar that I think is Australia. And, yeah. This is a depiction, what I think may be a depiction of Australia in the earliest cave art on Earth in Sulawesi, Indonesia. With, of course, Cape York Peninsula being its snout, and, having similar shapes to that, albeit exaggerated in the avatar. So let's see, I guess it's like this. I just click through. So, who among men was so beloved as he, brave Mako Duin, beloved of the schools? Women all mourn this sad and piteous tale of him who firmly grasped the murderous spear. So I think women, partly that's because all the women are in love with him because he has a big schlong. They say that, let's see, how does this work? They say that his, that there's the love spot on his body that women, when they saw it, they fell in love with him. I think that's his dick because I think, it's basically the same avatar as of Papua as shown at Sligo, and he's basically described as a birdman in the Celtic because he's described anthropomorphically, like as a humanoid, but he's also described as a hawk. So that fits the fact that he's like a birdman in this one. And even the modern Papuans refer to like this area as like Bird's Head Peninsula, Bird's Beak Peninsula, Bird's Neck Isthmus. So, and it's like the same story where, as shown here, where they both die together. Like the hunter kills the bison, and then they both, the bison's like dying because he's bleeding out of here. This is like where all this weird, like sediment comes out of this bay, the Gulf of Van Diemen Gulf or whatever. But then this guy's also dead, so they're basically just dead together in this field, just like in the Celtic story of Diarmid and the Great Boar. But since they didn't have bisons in Scotland or Ireland, they made it a boar, just like the Sulawesians might have done. And this shows modern depiction of it, and it's kind of similar here. You see the dying man and the dying animal or whatever, and yeah, pretty similar. But this, I think, might be an earlier iteration of the boar because it says first Diarmid and the boar are nearby, I think, like in Sligo. It says Diarmid is in Sligo. So Sligo is basically this area. And to me, this peninsula is shaped like a boar. Like this would be its like tooth sticking up, and this would be like its ear, and this would be its eye and the snout and stuff. And this would be, and then this is the adjacent, kind of in front of it. This is the side of the coast, which is shaped somewhat like Papua, so it could be that this represents Diarmid in the Irish context as being Sligo's coast. Here's the Sligo airport, goes right to his top of his head there. But, the shape of his head and his beak is somewhat similar, even if the beak here is shorter. And so anyway, so he's well endowed, like this is his dick, so that makes sense that he's described as all the women love him when they see his love spot or whatever. But in this case, it seems like it might be that this is his balls here and this is his dick. And there's probably a river that somewhat delineates it from the body there. So this makes sense because in the Greeks also would place these avatars in multiple places. Like Amalthea was supposed to be in Crete, also supposed to be in mainland Greece, also potentially in Australia. Let's see what else is going on here. This is something else around there that might be an iteration of his sword. This seems to be his spear. So it said that specifically on this hunt, he had his yellow spear, and this is yellowish. Like if you increase saturation compared to other islands and peninsulas, it has a more yellowish hue. And it says the spear is broken into 3, so there's 1, 2, and 3 islands that make up this thing. But I think this is the actual sword that he then slays the boar with. It says he takes the sword out of its scabbard. And the way it says it almost sounds like the scabbard is the boar's scabbard, which the reason for that may be that the scabbard is actually basically attached to the boar. So, here's this yellowish spear in 3. Here's this, what maybe the sword and the scabbard. And then this peninsula, I think maybe showing the sword penetrating. And maybe this one too, showing the sword penetrating because the spear couldn't penetrate the skin, the thick skin of the boar. Women all mourn because he has a huge schlong. The great old boar. So great in old terminology means large. It's so funny how many words just have completely lost their original meaning. But yeah, great meant large. So it's a very large boar, even compared to these giants. So it says that, so he's a hero of the fiend. The monster wakened from his heavy sleep. So it's a huge boar, and it makes sense because Australia is the biggest island in its region. The great old boar has bristles stiff. So the bristles seem to be, there may be multiple things that are the bristles, but I think especially the Great Barrier Reef. Their points more piercing, yada yada. So he throws the spear. It shivers. It breaks into 3. Shivered into 3. Doesn't penetrate the body. Then from its sheath he drew his thin leaved sword. See, it says the boar and then its sheath, so that could be a play on words because the sheath is actually part of the boar. Of all the arms most crowned, yada yada. So he kills the monster with the sword. He escapes being wounded, so Finn doesn't, he's jealous of him, whatever. So he sends him, tells him to measure the boar from its snout. Carefully measure Diarmid carefully the boar. The envenomed pointed bristle. Yeah. So anyway, measuring the boar down from the snout, and then measure the other way against the hair. So the snout is here. So I was thinking maybe it means back from the snout, and then going back against the hair, meaning it's sailing along this, because the people who wrote these stories probably actually did this. They tried to measure these islands, which